What's going on YouTube? What's going on Facebook? Big Dog Brett. Hey, let me get my wardrobe fixed. There we go. Ain't much can't really improve on this, so I got to make sure the clothes is as good as I can get it. So, all right, guys, you know what day it is? It's clean old-fashioned hate day. It's one of my favorite days of the year. So let's see what we got going on. Looks like Georgia's going to be a noon kickoff on the SCE network. For those of you who don't have the SEC network, get yourself a PlayStation 4. Get yourself PlayStation View. And pay that $50-something a month. Get rid of that high cable bill you've been paying. And get you the SEC network. All right, today's video, what I want to do is I'm going to go over real quickly. I always say that video always ends up being 20 minutes long. I'm going to go over real quickly the games that are being played today, who I think is going to win, why I think they're going to win it. I'm going to do the Georgia Tech game. Georgia comes on at noon, so right now it's 11 o'clock. Due to the holidays, family traveling, visiting, and all other stuff, I didn't make a video. Sorry. Here you go. You guys know I do the halftime review and the post-game video follow-up and all that other stuff. And based on some of the outcomes of some of today's games, I'll go over those as well. One of the things I do want to go over was yesterday's games. Washington State and Washington. Wow, what a game. Washington ended up winning that game. For some reason, Washington State was thinking that if a whole bunch of miracles happened, they would end up in the college football playoff. And I think these were the only people that were thinking that, because, I mean, just looking at what they had going on, that they would have gotten demolished by anybody they'd have played. So, I mean, I can understand maybe the desire to be in the college football playoff, but I can't understand the probability of thinking that they'd be able to do any good there. But the game was atrocious. It was terrible. Weather conditions started out, it was really nice as far as the field conditions, but as the game limped on, at one point they had to scrape the field. It was pretty bad. If you guys get a chance, go look that up. Just there's tons of stuff all over the internet about that. Florida State. Everybody knows I'm not a Florida fan. If you're a Georgia fan, you're probably not going to like Florida very much, but I hate FSU. I just do. I just hate them. And it's not because of anything in particular. For whatever reason, it's one of those teams I can't stand. So, FSU, Florida's going to pound y'all to dust. We know what's going to happen there. Also, at noon on lunch, the Michigan-Ohio State game. Both teams are 10-1. I think Michigan's only like a 4 or 5 point favorite. I would be surprised if the game's that close. I think Michigan will probably win that game by 2 scores. But I'm not going to complain if OSU wins. I'm going to be pulling for Ohio State. I'm going to be pulling for them. But if they don't win, hey, no big deal. I'm okay with it. I mean, I want Ohio State to win. If Michigan doesn't win, I'm okay with that. So, Syracuse, BC, nobody cares. 3:30 on CBS, prime time pretty much, is going to be the Alabama-Auburn game. I'm probably going to be switching back and forth if the Georgia game is still going between Alabama and Auburn. Alabama should win this game soundly. Probably another 2 to 3 score game for Alabama. Auburn does not have a running back. Georgia demolished them. I'm really going to be interested to see how this game goes, because it'll be a pretty good litmus test for how Alabama's going to fare. Auburn did beat them last year, so there's probably some bad blood still there. So you might even see a few flare-ups on the field. Excuse me. Tasty beverage. All right. Maryland versus Penn State. Maryland's been hot and cold, so Penn State could potentially lose this game. We'll see what happens. Pitt versus Miami. Mark Richt will lose that game for Miami. Pitt will win. ISU versus Kansas State. That game could go either way. Kentucky versus Louisville. Kentucky's probably going to beat the brakes off Louisville. They looked really bad last week. Let's see. I'd probably say 3 scores. Louisville's a 2-9 team. They're just terrible this year. They can't really get anything going, so I don't see any reason to even think they might have a shot at beating Kentucky. Clemson, the 11-0 versus South Carolina. another team I got to pull for South Carolina. And I'm not a Gamecocks fan by any means, but I'm certainly not a Clemson fan by any means. But this helps Georgia. So if South Carolina somehow manages to pull this off, hey, I'll take it, but I don't see it happening. That's just, no, I don't think that's going to happen. LSU versus Texas A&M. Don't get it twisted. Texas A&M is a good ball club. They are. They got a pretty good offense. LSU's been off and on, so we'll see what happens with them. But if LSU sleeps on Texas A&M, Texas A&M will win that. Texas A&M will win that game. LSU should win it by, I would say, 10 points, but I think Texas A&M has a shot at that game. USC versus Notre Dame. Notre Dame should trounce them. Utah, BYU, nobody cares. BSU, USU. See, this tells you how bad college football is this year. This tells you how bad it is. When you've got, where did it start at? Where was I looking at? You got Iowa State, ranked 25. You got USU. I don't even know who the heck that is. They're ranked 21. BSU, which is Boise State, I know who they are because we played them a few years ago. Utah is ranked 17. Mississippi State, okay. UCF is ranked 9th, which is fine with me. But WSU, which was ranked number 8, Washington was ranked. I mean, when those teams are ranked, man, it's just like, wow, what the heck is going on in college football? All right, let me jump back here real quick. Mississippi State versus Ole Miss. Mississippi State will kill them. Texas, oh, they did kill them. I'm quoting games from yesterday. I went past where I was supposed to go. 35-3. So I inadvertently called that one. Didn't even realize what time the game was on. That's terrible. I got to tighten up. All right, so let's get into the real deal. Let's get into the Georgia Tech game. Matchup predictor on ESPN says it's Georgia's a 90.9% favorite to win this game. They're basically giving Georgia Tech a 9% chance to win this game. I don't see it happening. The money line on this is ridiculous. They're saying that Georgia should win this game by 15.5 points. I don't like this point spread at all. So basically what it says, if Georgia wins by 2 touchdowns, Georgia has to win by 2 touchdowns and a field goal. So 15.5 point is kind of a weird number. If it was 13.5, I'd say take it, but at 15.5, that's a weird number. So I don't like those weird numbers. And the over and unders 59. I would definitely, given the way that Georgia's been playing, I would definitely take the over on this game. Georgia's going to probably put up at least 40 points. If Georgia doesn't stay disciplined in the first half, if they have a learning curve, it's possible that Georgia Tech could score 20 points and 21 points in this game. Georgia's still going to win, but I can see that happening. Or if Georgia takes his foot off the gas pedal and late in the game, which I don't think they should, but they might, because they want to try to avoid injuries. They might want to get some of these other guys some playing time against Tech. But yeah, I think Georgia. I think it's going to be higher than 59 points. Okay. Points per game. Georgia Tech averages 36. Georgia averages 39. Playing completely different kinds of opponents, I might add. Points allowed per game. Georgia only allows about 16.8, 17 points a game. And that's including the loss at LSU. So you understand Georgia's got a pretty good defense. Total yards, Georgia averaging almost 500 yards a game. Georgia Tech 437. But here's the difference, guys. Total yards passing, Tech 83. Now they will take some shots downfield. They're not scared to throw it downfield to try and burn you once you get comfortable with the run game. They'll take some shots down the field to try to loosen some stuff up. And the quarterback, actually, as far as accuracy goes, is not bad. The guys actually can hit some guys downfield. So I don't think that other than Clemson, they haven't played anybody that's got any kind of speed. And when Clemson played them, they didn't really do anything as far as passing the ball. You guys know I always usually do my videos in the car, and it's a little chilly this morning. And when I say chilly, it's chilly for here. It's 39 degrees. So let me turn the heater on. I know there's probably some places in the country where you're like, that's not cold. Well, I'm a Georgia boy. I don't like the snow. I'm okay with it snowing and then going away. But to snow and stay and get cold and stay, don't like it. Okay, rushing yards per game, 353. Georgia, again, it's pretty balanced, 226 passing to 257, 58 rushing. So Georgia's offense is pretty good. Rushing yards, pass yards allowed 223, rush yards allowed 137. Georgia's pass allowed 182. Georgia's rush allowed 128. And I mean, again, there's a big factor here in the teams that Georgia has played versus the teams that Georgia Tech has played. Georgia's last 4 out of 5 opponents have been ranked. And that was LSU, Florida, University of Kentucky, and Auburn. All of them were ranked when we played them, and we held, with the exception of LSU, I mean, we pretty much did whatever we wanted to do. Their last 5 teams, they lost to Duke. They beat Virginia Tech, they beat UNC, they beat Miami, and they beat UVA. I mean, I don't, those teams do not have the caliber of, they just do not have the caliber of offense or defense that Georgia does, or the schedule that Georgia plays. They basically got one receiver who has 13 receptions all year for 200 yards, 215 yards. They have a guy at T. Marshall. Marshall is his name. This guy has 174 carries. This is their go-to guy at 857 yards. 174 carries, 857 yards. DeAndre Swift, 125 carries and 857 yards. Exactly the same amount of yards with almost exactly 50 less carries. Pretty clear to see which one's a better running back. And that's with him splitting carries with Holyfield. I'm not going down that boat again. So this game, I mean, Georgia's just going to run all over them. When Georgia wants to buckle down and stop the run, ask University of Kentucky how that works out. Now, last year, they asked Kirby Smart how he prepared for this game, and he says that every Thursday in practice they play against the triple option. Now, he kind of backed off of that in one of the meetings here, or one of the press conferences he released, but I ain't for a second going to believe that he backed off of having those guys practice that option all year. They practice that all year. Kirby Smart knows if you're going to play Georgia, if you're going to play and be the head coach of Georgia, you better win the in-state stuff. And so far, he's done a great job of doing that. So I'm going with Kirby on this one again. All right. I also wanted to jump into the Alabama-Auburn game real quick, because I do have some Alabama fans, and some of those guys asked that I kind of critique that stuff the way I do Georgia, so I don't mind doing that for you guys. Pretty much identical, almost identical to everything I said about Georgia and Georgia Tech. You can say the same thing about Alabama and Auburn. Alabama's a 91% favorite. Auburn's an 8.7% chance of winning this game. Stidham's not a bad quarterback. He's just not a great quarterback. Tua's going to rip. Tua's a much better quarterback. Whitlow is their guy. Pretty much all the stuff I said about Georgia-Auburn is exactly the same thing for Alabama-Auburn. They have, I think it's DeAndre Harris. I'm not 100% sure. I think that's his name. But he has 108 carries for 678 yards and 7 touchdowns. He does split carries with a couple other guys. Whitlow is pretty much their primary back at 124 carries. He's got 716 yards. So at 20 more carries, he has only about 40 more yards. So that's only about 4 or 5 more yards per carry average. Alabama does a great job of stopping the run. Alabama's a 25-point favorite, which is another weird number. Essentially, if Alabama wins by 3 touchdowns, you lose the point spread. If Alabama has 3 touchdowns and a field goal, or excuse me, 3 touchdowns and a field goal, you lose the point spread. You either got to have 4 touchdowns or you got to have 3 touchdowns and 2 field goals. Again, it's a weird number. The over-under is 53. I would definitely say over. Alabama's going to come out with some real grit and want to kick some teeth in. So they understand what's coming up. You'll probably see once they get out ahead, you're probably going to see them pull in. I keep calling the guy Mac Brown. I mean, you're going to see him put that guy in. That's their backup quarterback, and Alabama will be able to run the ball just fine. Average points per game for Alabama's 48, points allowed 13. Auburn points per game is 29, and points allowed per game 16. All right, so let me get into, Auburn's allowing almost 350 yards per game. Alabama is doing almost 540 yards per game. There's just not a lot of room in here for Auburn to win this game. Alabama doesn't allow very many rush yards at all, and they certainly don't allow very many pass yards. 170 to 112 yards, 170 pass, 112 rushing. You're just not going to see. You're really not going to see Auburn do a whole lot. I mean, the score is going to be low on the Auburn side. They might score. They might score 14 points. It ain't going to be a lot. The last 5 opponents have not really been impressive for either team. Auburn played Liberty. They played us, which was good for, that's about the only good team they played recently, and they got their teeth kicked in. They did edge Texas A&M, but, I mean, it was 28-24. That was a weird game. Ole Miss, they beat Ole Miss, and they lost to Tennessee. I can't say that and keep a straight face. They lost to Tennessee. What's Tennessee this year? 5-7, 5-6. Listen, I got some friends that are Tennessee fans, and I feel sorry. It is to the point where I'm past laughing at Tennessee, and I just feel sorry for them. Man, they seem to have these sparks of brilliance, and then they seem to somehow lose it. And I don't understand that. I mean, there's obviously talent there. There's obviously some good coaching that's happened here and there, but it's got to happen on a more consistent basis for anybody to take them seriously. All right, and the reason I bring that up is because I want to talk about, go back in October, the 2nd and 3rd week in October, Auburn lost to Texas. Texas scored 30 points on Auburn. Auburn only scored 24. When Alabama played them the next week, it was 58-21. I don't know. I just don't see how Auburn is going to be able to beat Alabama. I guess my point is that if Auburn has the potential for letting 30-24 in the Tennessee game, I'm really worried about what Alabama's going to do to them. Now, they did beat the brakes off of Liberty, but I think that's because Georgia trounced them, and then they got all upset, and the next team that they just throwed them was some cupcake team, and they just shredded them. They may feel like they're going to have some momentum, but like they say, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. I'm not an Alabama fan, but I hate Auburn. Oh, man, Alabama's going to kill them. Alabama's going to kill them. All right, guys. That's pretty much it for me for today. 18-minute mark, about 20 minutes, same as usual. So thank you guys so much for your time. Appreciate it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, sub. Pass me around like a cheap suit, whatever. We'll be seeing you guys soon. And as always, have a great day. God bless. Go Dogs.